Hey, I'm Evan, 28. My whole life I've been the family comes first guy. I guess it's mom's fault raising us on her own after dad split. Or maybe I just needed something solid to hold on to, you know. Whatever it was, I've always been the one cleaning up after my younger brother, Sean. He's 26 now, old enough to know better, but way too young to actually care. Sean's always been intense. A total rock star when things go his way, but vanishes when the going gets tough. And I was a fool. I thought if I just gave him enough, helped him enough, loved him enough, he'd eventually straighten up. It started small, like these things always do. A text, "Hey man, short on rent just this once." Then a panicked call cause he'd forgotten about his credit card bill and his account was frozen. I told myself it was a one-time thing. Everyone struggles in their 20s, right? But months bled into a year and the amounts kept climbing. $200 here, 600 there, then 1,200 to fix his car. Each time, Sean had this wide-eyed, grateful look, promising, swearing it was the last time. Man, I so desperately wanted to believe him. Then 3 days before New Year's Eve, the phone rang again. I was stuck in line at the grocery store, arms loaded down with food for a small get-together with some friends. His voice was all frantic, out of breath. The first time his car got taken, it was because he couldn't keep up with the payments. And now, he was about to lose it again if he didn't come up with $2,500 and fast. He was practically groveling, saying he'd be screwed without it, no job. He swore he was finally getting his act together. I knew better, but I sent him the money anyway. Didn't even tell my friends. I was mostly ashamed of myself, really, for giving in so easy. The thing is, you can try to ignore what people show you, you know? But those rose-tinted glasses can only last so long before they break. New Year's Eve rolled around, and Sean said he was going to a party a few towns away. I just figured he'd do the typical get wasted, make a bunch of promises he wouldn't keep. In the morning, I just hung out with a couple of close friends at home. We pigged out on junk food, played board games, and did the countdown like a couple of kids. It was actually really nice, you know? Peaceful. I hadn't felt like that in so long, I was even starting to let myself hope. Maybe this year would be different. Maybe 2025 would finally be the year I stopped feeling like I was hauling my brother around everywhere. Then right when the ball dropped, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Sean. "You're just a burden, stay away." And that was it. No explanation, no apology, nothing. Just 7 words that hit harder than anything ever had. At first, I just thought it was a mistake. He'd probably had too much to drink and texted the wrong person. I just stared at the screen, blinking, reading it over and over, hoping the words would magically change. But they didn't. Then boom, the group chat exploded with pictures of Sean grinning like an idiot, raising a glass with his buddies. One of them even captioned it, "Freedom from Leech's New Yearnum." There he was, smack dab in the middle, looking like he didn't have a worry in the world. Like all the money I'd slaved to give him didn't mean a thing. Like I didn't mean a thing. I didn't say a word. No call, no angry text, nothing. I just sat there, letting that empty, awful feeling creep in. My friends probably saw something was wrong, but I faked a smile and said I was tired. But inside, this hard, cold lump was growing where my hope used to be. I barely slept a wink that night. My brain just replayed every time I'd saved his butt, every time I'd shielded him from the mess he'd made. And every single time he'd smiled and patted me on the back, only to go right back to screwing things up. It hit me then, I hadn't been helping him. I'd been letting him get away with it. I wasn't his brother. I was his ATM, his safety net, his patsy. By morning, I knew what I had to do. The very first thing I did was fire up my laptop and check the payment history on Sean's car loan. Finding the paperwork with my signature on it was easy. When he was in a bind and the car place didn't think he was good for it, he sweet-talked me into co-signing. So yeah, I was still the official owner. Sean didn't bother reading the fine print when he got the car keys. He just wanted to show off to his buddies. Then I pulled up the bank statements, you know, the ones that showed how many payments came out of my account for a while Sean was supposedly getting back on his feet. Temporary turned into forever pretty darn fast, and stupidly I let it. But the kicker, Sean had already messed up so many payments that there was a tow order ready to go if he fell behind again, and he was 2 days late already. It would take just one phone call. I made that call around 8:30 in the morning, probably before he even woke up in whatever random place he'd crashed at. The towing company knew the situation right away and said they'd be happy to speed up the pickup. All I had to do was confirm I was the owner. I grinned. Oh, I was definitely the owner. By 9:45 a.m., I was sitting in my car across the street from Sean's place, drinking coffee and watching the tow truck back into his driveway. Sean's car, a flashy red Mustang that he couldn't afford even when he was doing well, was still there, parked all wonky like he'd just rolled out of it the night before. Right away, the tow truck guy jumped out, hooked it up like a pro, super fast. 5 minutes later, boom, Sean's Mustang was in the air, swaying a little as the guy secured it. As they drove off, I saw Sean's front door swing open. He was topless, no shoes, hair a total mess. He was squinting in the sun, totally trying to figure out what was going on. He just stood there for a second, like frozen. Then he took off running down the street, arms flailing, yelling something I couldn't make out from my car. The tow truck didn't even slow down. I cracked my window just enough to hear the last bit him yelling, "Hi," down the street. I was freaking out, so confused. And then bam, my phone blows up. Incoming call, Sean. I let it ring and ring and ring again. Finally, it went to voicemail, and then ping, his text popped up. "Dude, where's my car?" I flipped my phone face down and relaxed, letting the sun warm me up. For the first time in ages, I didn't feel like I was carrying the weight of the world. But it wasn't over, not even close. Sean's car was just the start. The real craziness was yet to come. I sat there for a bit longer, letting it all sink in. It wasn't exactly happiness, you know? It was more peaceful than that. It felt like looking at a field after a wildfire, everything scorched, empty, but somehow free. A brand new beginning. My hands were steady, my heart wasn't racing. For the first time in ages, I wasn't playing cleanup crew for Sean's latest mess. I wasn't frantically trying to fix whatever he'd broken. I finally let things fall apart like they needed to. Then when I got back to my place, the real craziness started. Sean's phone calls just exploded. 6 missed calls turned into 12, then 19. Texts kept pouring in first, all panicky and confused, then furious, then just plain raging. "What did you do? Answer me, this isn't funny, I'm calling the cops." That one actually made me chuckle. He could try. The car title and everything were in my name. Legally, Sean had been borrowing my car for months without paying a dime. I was totally in the right. But Sean, he wasn't exactly known for letting facts get in his way. By lunchtime, he was hammering on my apartment door. I ignored him. I sat at my kitchen table, eating a sandwich, listening to him beat on the door, yelling about opening up and how I was ruining his life. I could picture him so clearly, hair a mess, eyes red, pacing like a caged animal, blaming anyone but himself. Finally, when he realized I wasn't opening the door, he changed his approach. He slipped a note under the door. It sat there for a whole hour before I even touched it. When I finally looked, it was just one angry sentence, scrawled in black marker. "You'll be sorry." Typical Sean, always throwing threats around when he couldn't win a fight. I sat back, staring at the ceiling, replaying it all in my head. Years of bending over backwards, swallowing my anger, ignoring how disappointed I was. Years of convincing myself he'd get better if I just stuck it out a little longer. I remembered paying his rent so he wouldn't get kicked out, while I ate ramen every night. I sold my gaming system, my only escape, to cover his electricity bill after he blew his paycheck at the casino. The birthday presents I ordered that never showed up. His promises to pay me back next week, which always turned into next month, then poof, nothing. But the worst. Thinking about how charming he could be when things were good, all smiles and pats on the back, until suddenly I was the problem, a loser he could just dump. I wasn't going to let that happen anymore. I didn't block his number. Didn't need to. Ignoring him felt so much better, letting him rant to himself while I built my own life. That was the best revenge, quiet and satisfying. The next day, I called the bank about the joint account I'd let him use. You know, the one I foolishly kept open so he could learn to save. Shocker, he'd overdrawn it again. Well, not anymore. I shut down his account during my lunch break. I also canceled the credit card. He was a secondary user, swore he never touched it, but somehow ran up $1,200 on Uber Eats and booze. I paid the rest, canceled it, and cut every single financial tie we had. It felt like severing the last rotten rope from a sinking ship, getting away from it all, finally. Then came the final thing I had to do. Remember that $2,500 I wired him right before New Year's? Yeah, that. It was a wire transfer through my bank, and because Sean texted that he'd pay it back, I had proof it wasn't a gift. That afternoon, I filed a small claims case. I wasn't really expecting to get the money back. The guy was broke. I knew that, but it didn't matter. I wanted it documented. I wanted him served. I wanted that paper trail following him around like a bad smell. When the court date came, I pictured him trying to explain to a judge how he managed to screw himself over even after he thought he was free and clear, thanks to a few well-placed signatures. But I still wasn't finished. I went through everything, every payment, every favor, every single receipt, every email. I meticulously documented it all, calm as could be, like I was some accountant closing the books after a crazy, messy year. It was draining. Yeah, emotionally draining. Some nights I stayed up late, questioning myself. Maybe I'd gone too far. Maybe I should have just let it go. But then I'd see his face in those pictures. He was all smiles, clinking glasses with his buddies, joking about being rid of me. No more me footing the bills for his electricity, no more me keeping his car fueled up, no more me stepping in to handle his messes when he wouldn't. He was done with me, and that was that. Okay, then. So was I. A few days later, the final nail in the coffin arrived in the form of a letter. It was about Sean's insurance. The one I'd set up with mine to try and save him some money. His policy was canceled because he hadn't paid. I knew he couldn't pay for it himself. I figured he hadn't even realized yet. But he would. He'd realize real quick when he got nailed for driving without coverage. In our state, it meant serious fines, maybe even losing his license. And if he got stopped or, God forbid, got into an accident, it would be a total disaster. I just sat there on my couch, flipping the envelope over and over in my hands, feeling the emptiness of it all. It wasn't like I was thrilled. It wasn't even happiness. It was just relief. Relief that I didn't have to shoulder all the responsibility anymore. Relief that Sean was finally going to experience some actual repercussions for once. When everything blew up, it was going to be a show. But first, I had to wait. Wait for the phone to ring, the frantic banging on my door, the pleading texts for assistance. So it happened fast. Just 3 days later, almost lunchtime, my phone buzzed. Sean again. I didn't pick up, just watched it ring. That sick, guilty feeling I used to get, it was smaller now, less intense. A minute later, a text. Bro, seriously, I need your help. I put my phone down, screen up this time, and went back to my coffee. Let him sweat. Let him figure out that he'd totally blown things between us and there wasn't a quick fix. Another minute ticked by. Please, man, I'm stuck, got pulled over, no insurance. They're gonna tow my car again. I swear I'll pay you back, come on. I almost burst out laughing. The whole thing was just unbelievable. He didn't even know there was no car to tow. The Mustang, gone. The loan company auctioned it off miles away. And his license? If the cops were doing their job, they'd see all those tickets he racked up on my insurance without paying a cent. The kind of mess you can't just smooth over with a sorry. Another text. Please, bro, I'm begging you, I don't know what to do. That's when it hit me. This wasn't an act. This wasn't Sean's usual fake crying for cash or pity. This was genuine panic. Real, raw, and messy. I should have felt sorry for him. Maybe a long time ago I would have. It was a weird kind of relief, you know? Like after all those years of him taking advantage of me, it was finally over. Another call, another message. This time he actually left one. I didn't listen right away. I just sat there watching the clouds drift by, feeling peaceful. It was like a weight had been lifted, the constant worry was gone. When I finally played it, his voice was all shaky and pathetic. Evan, man, please, he pleaded. Seriously, they're gonna take my car. I'm all alone. I'll pay you back, I swear. Just this once, please. I messed up. I shouldn't have said those things. Don't leave me hanging. I'm sorry. There it was, the apology I'd been waiting for. But it felt hollow, completely empty. It wasn't a real apology, not one born of understanding or remorse. He just needed something again, always needing something. I didn't answer. I went straight to my banking app, my new account, the one I'd just opened, and looked at the balance. Untouched, safe, all mine. It was like a victory, a little sign that I finally put myself first. No more being his personal bank. His messes weren't my problem anymore. Later that night, I was curious, so I looked him up online. I know I shouldn't have, but I did. And there he was, all over social media, a terrible selfie, blurry as anything, taken by the side of the road with flashing cop lights behind him. Some people only care when they need something, right? I guess I'm better off without that kind of family. Totally betrayed. Live and learn, I guess. The comments were awful. His buddies, the ones who didn't know the real story, were all over it, loving the drama. Mostly jokes about getting busted or some dumb stuff about starting 2025 off with an arrest. A few of our mutual friends asked if he was okay. I didn't comment, didn't like the post, didn't even feel like I should. Sean was right. We were both better off without each other. The next morning, my apartment was peaceful. No crazy texts, no missed calls, just the quiet and the sunlight coming through the curtains. It felt like my life was finally, actually mine again. I went for a walk, breathed in the cold January air, and felt lighter than I had in ages. No more waiting for the next big fight, no more trying to fix someone who didn't want to be fixed. When I got back, I had one more message from Sean. This one wasn't angry or begging. It was just 2 words, I'm sorry. I didn't reply, I didn't even reread it. After that first time, there wasn't anything left to say. It's not like I hated him or anything. It would have been simpler to just hate him, you know? At least hate means you still feel something, something raw and intense. But what I felt was this emptiness, like looking at a faded picture of a life that wasn't really mine anymore. Then for weeks, Sean just disappeared. No messages, no calls, nothing. I had no idea if he finally got the message or if life just, well, ate him up for a bit. Whatever, I didn't bother chasing after him. I didn't even check in. For once, I focused on myself. It was crazy how fast things started to change when I did that. I actually started going to the gym again, not to impress anyone, not to prove a point, just for me. I started hanging out with old friends again, friends I'd lost touch with over the years, friends who'd kinda backed away because they were sick of seeing me get walked all over. I even picked up extra shifts at work. Not to pay off someone else's debts, but because I had my own plans now, things I wanted to save for, places I wanted to see. My world got bigger, while Sean's, I figured, probably got smaller. Then about 2 months after that crazy New Year's Eve, I bumped into Nate at a coffee shop. Nate was an old friend, someone who used to be really close to Sean. We did the usual small talk, that awkward shuffle of people who have shared a ton and haven't seen each other in ages. But then Nate brought Sean up. He asked, "So you talked to your brother lately?" He was stirring his coffee, never looking up. "No," I said, short and sweet. He looked at me then, kinda unsure how much I really wanted to hear. "He's not doing so hot, man," he said. I shrugged. "It's not my problem anymore," I mumbled. Nate just nodded slowly. "Yeah, I figured," he said. "I just thought you should know he's living with some chick now. He's barely making ends meet. Lost his job a couple weeks back. Heard he's already behind on the rent." I didn't say anything. What could I say? This was always going to happen. The only thing that ever stopped it was me, always fixing things for him. Nate paused, then added, "He's been saying you ditched him, that you left him on the streets." I chuckled, not even angry, just worn out. "Sounds about right," I said. "You're not mad?" he asked. "No," I told him honestly. "I'm just done." Saying it out loud felt peaceful. Nate patted me on the back, all awkward like he didn't know what to do next, and then we went our separate ways. That night, I thought about Sean's story, how he'd spun it to make himself the victim, how he probably painted me as this awful, heartless brother who kicked him while he was down. It used to matter what people thought. It used to kill me. Not anymore, though. I knew the truth, and the people who mattered would too if they bothered to find out. That spring came on real slow that year. The sky cleared up, those bright blue mornings that make you just want to roll down the windows and drive, you know? I started doing that a lot, just hopping in my car, heading in any direction that felt right. One Saturday, I ended up on the edge of this tiny town, like 40 minutes outside the city. There was this cute little bookstore squeezed between a bakery and a thrift shop. I went in, totally on a whim, and I ended up spending 2 whole hours there, looking through all these old books, just shooting the breeze with the owner about our favorite authors. I bought a few books, a couple of mugs, and this really cool handmade journal. It was such a small thing, just a little Saturday drive, exactly what I needed. No plans, no phone calls blowing up, no huge problems hanging over my head. And even though it was tiny, it felt like the biggest win of my entire life. A few days later, I got an actual letter in the mail. A real letter, not an email or a text. I saw the handwriting right away, messy, kind of rushed. Sean. I almost chucked it in the trash without even opening it. Almost, but my curiosity won. Inside was just one sheet of paper. It said, "Evan, I know you probably don't care anymore, and I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. I was selfish. I took advantage of you. I told myself it wasn't a big deal because you're my brother, and that's what brothers do, right? I get it now, how much I hurt you, how much I used you. I'm so sorry. You were the only one who ever really tried to help me. I see that now, and I messed it all up. I'm trying to do better." I know it sounds crazy, but I had to tell someone. Thanks for everything, even though I didn't deserve half of it. So there I was, holding Sean's letter, staring at it for ages. It felt real, you know, more honest than anything he'd ever said. Maybe, just maybe, he actually meant it this time, but I didn't answer. It wasn't anger or spite, it was just understanding. Some things are best left closed, you know. Some bridges are just too burned to rebuild. It's not hate, it's just fixing it would only lead to the same old pain, the same mess all over again. Forgiving someone doesn't always mean letting them back in. Sometimes it's just wishing them well from far away. I folded the letter up real nice, tucked it away in a drawer, and just went on with my life. Then summer hit, those long, beautiful evenings, the warm sunlight, and it hit me. I wasn't just getting by anymore. I was actually living and carrying only my own baggage.